Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another Fresh CFO Fridays. Man, I'm super excited about this conversation today. Thank you for coming in. Hope your Fridays, hope your week is going well. I feel like now we're in that time of the year where it really starts to ramp up and it starts to, pretty soon we'll be in springtime. Pretty soon it'll be summertime. My week is going really, really well. It's pretty cool this week. We got the NBA All Star downtown in Indianapolis, Indiana. So there's a lot of festivities going on. I got some friends volunteering. I may or may not go downtown to check out the NBA All Star stuff, but there's a lot of stuff going on. So it's a pretty cool week. All right. Today's topic. This one is near and dear to me. It's near and dear to the clients we help support at Fresh FP&A. If this is your first time coming to a Fresh CFO Fridays, before I jump into the topics and everything, my name is Chris Ortega. I am the CEO of Fresh FP&A. I run a global fractional CFO and advisory service company. And basically, what we do is we help growing businesses transform and scale their finance organization by providing fractional CFO and advisory services. So that's a little bit about me. Okay, today's topic. Today's topic we're going to talk about is, man, we got to forget these crystal balls and we got to embrace chaos, right? When you look over the last couple years and you look at the continued uncertainty that we see, you see the continued uncertainty around talent. You see the continued uncertainty in the investment community. In the United States, we're coming across a election year, which always drives a lot of uncertainty. I have my sister. She actually works for the government. And we were talking yesterday and she was telling me about, how they're starting their planning processes and doing a lot of stuff. But there's really not a lot you can do when you don't know who the next president's going to be. So as we sit in this stage and this chapter, I would say, of continued uncertainty, it's important for us as finance, FP&A, CFO, fractional CFO professionals that are advising our clients to make sure that, hey, man, we got to embrace this chaos. So that's what today's topic is going to be about. I want to jump into the first element that everybody needs to consider when you're embracing uncertainty, you're embracing challenge. And this is really something that I've honed down in leading high growth businesses, as well as what I have my team focused on. Is the first element to embracing chaos and embracing this change and this ambiguity is going to be striking the right balance between accuracy and precision, right? So a lot of times, some of our clients, one of our clients that we have, they were a retail client. They're about a $35 million retail client. They're based in the US. And one of the things that we got into the conversation with the CEO at the client was they were like, Chris, man, we need a 3 and 5 year plan. We need to work through this stuff. And I sat back and said, okay, what are we trying to do with this 3 to 5 year financial plan and financial model? Like what kind of certainty, what kind of information, like what are you trying to gather from this that's going to lead to value, right? And to me, his business, retail e-commerce, that is probably one of the most seasonal, depending upon what you sell, it's one of the most seasonal businesses. And definitely when we look over their business's seasonality, there are definitely quarters and months where seasonality significantly changes, right? And it's a lot of unpredictability into it as well, too. So my pushback was, is a 3 to 5 year plan, is that like gonna give you some like confidence interval? Like what are we really trying to solve and what are we really trying to get out of this plan? So part of me pushing back to this accuracy and precision is balancing that, right? When I think of accuracy, and this is how I'll define it, and this is how I'll define precision as well too. So when you ever hear me talk about this, accuracy is going to be like that 75, I would say like 70 to 85% confidence interval that this is going to be directionally where we're going to go, right? So a great example of this, if you're with our client that we were working with, I said, look, the most important thing that we probably need to look at in our business is not the next 36 to 60 months, right? Like a 3 to 5 year plan. I said, we need to make sure we balance precision and accuracy in the next 12 to 18 months. So let's reduce the timeline and let's get really specific on where we want to have precision and really specific on where we want to be directionally accurate. So that accuracy piece, when I think about it in a 12 to 18 month timeline, right? Months 1 through, I would say, 3 and 4, you want to be precise. So let me define that precision aspect of it. Precision, this is where you're 90 to 95% confident that the metrics, the plan, the execution, the strategies, the tactics that you laid out are going to execute towards the financial model that you set. Precision is vital. And typically in a really high growth business that has a lot of uncertainty, has a lot of seasonality, which is the retail client that we serve at Fresh FP&A, I said we want to be precise on our cash burn. We want to be precise on our customer acquisition costs. We want to be precise on our expenses. And we want to be precise on our revenue in that first 1 to 4 months. That's where we want to have precision. Then in months 5, I would say through 8, that's where we want to balance accuracy, right? This is saying that, months 5 through 8, we want to be directionally accurate. Like we want to make sure we're not having huge deviations. And then outside of months 9 through whatever, that's the best guess. Like a lot of times I sit there and say, like, months 9 and later out, you're constantly gonna. And one of the things about the models and this accuracy and precision is every month you're always factoring new information. Always. Basically, what this is called for a lot of my finance, FP&A, CFO, and fractional CFO professionals, this is going to be like a rolling forecast, right? Whether that's a rolling forecast on your cash, whether that's a rolling forecast on your revenue, or whether that's a rolling forecast on your expenses. So as we get new information, we're constantly updating, and that forecast is running forward. So we're constantly getting new information in the business. We have a new month of precision. We have a new section of accuracy. And then, like I said, that 9 throughout, we're constantly reevaluating that. So to me, when you're navigating this uncertainty and challenge, that's one of the most key things to focus on, is that precision and that accuracy balance and being realistic, right? Like, again, that pushback to the client was, what kind of confidence are we going to have in the next 3 years, right? And here's another piece of it that I want to add to that accuracy and precision aspect of it. Think about in the business all the resources that you're going to have to engage to do this 3-5 year plan that maybe after 6 months doesn't even really make sense, right? Think about the salespeople you're going to involve. Think about marketing. Think about HR. Think about operations. Think about all the different resources inside the organizations that have to provide insights into this 3 to 5 year plan, right? So that's also a fundamental thing to think about, because that time, energy, and effort at those resources level could be more focused on being precise in that 1 to 4 months that you want to have. Like for sales, hey, I want to make sure we're precise on the amount of leads that we generate, the amount of opportunities we have, the amount of opportunities that we close. Like I want to make sure we have a healthy pipeline. So where I'm going to focus my time, energy, and effort and precision on is that pipeline management and that pipeline funnel, and making sure we're getting clients through different stages, right? Same thing on the HR side. So that's really one of those first pieces. And I get it. You may say, well, Chris, like we're a very stable business. Maybe a 3 to 5 year plan makes sense for us. Totally. I'm not saying there's not advantages and there's not opportunities to do those plans. I'm just saying make sure you set the right expectations of what those plans are meant to be, right? So if you're going to do a 3 to 5 year plan and you've got a business that has a lot of seasonality, it's changing, as a finance leader or the CFO or the fractional CFO, that 6 months, that plan is going to be completely different. Make sure when you're working with your business partners, make sure when you're working with that CEO, that owner, or that founder, you're setting the right expectations of what that plan is meant to communicate and what it's meant to do, right? And a lot of times if we're working a 3 to 5 year plans, I'm like, this is aspirationally where we want to be, right? Like if we have the perfect set of assumptions that fall, this could be the perfect set of areas we're going to be in a low, medium, high. I also look at it from a scenario perspective. Like if all these assumptions go right, if we get the right number of clients, we have the right number of customer acquisition costs, we have the right number of customer lifetime value, we have the right number of revenue growth, we have the right number of expense optimization, we have the right number of cash flow, we have the right number of cash runway, this is potentially where we could be, right? And I would always say this is the best information that we have, right? I would not take a 3 to 5 year plan and go to Wall Street or go to the newspapers and say, this is what we're going to do, right? So they definitely have their role, they definitely have their value, but it's most important to set that clarity and that expectation up front of what the intention of these models are meant to be. So that's the point number one that I want to talk about specifically. Diving into point number two. And I think this one, so the first one that we talked about, this balance between accuracy and precision, is very quantitative, right? Like you may be coming to me and it's like, yeah, Chris, that's exactly right. I love how you broke it down between the precision, the different stages, how you break out that 12-month period, and what different stages of confidence do you have and where you need to focus your time, energy, and effort. The second piece is more qualitative. And this is about building a culture of experimentation. Now, follow me here on this one. Follow me with this one. One of the things I love at Fresh FP&A is with my team, we're constantly experimenting with new ways of serving clients, new ways of providing value, new insights that we can provide. We're constantly creating what I call MVPs, right? This could be, now, yes, my team, our clients, yes, they're our most valuable partners, they're our most valuable players, whatever you want to say. But in this aspect of MVPs, I'm looking at it from minimum viable projects, right? So to give you a great example of a minimum viable project that you can go do, one of the things that I work with in a lot of our business, and also this carries over from working and leading over almost 20 plus years in leading high growth finance organizations at scaling businesses, was on a quarterly perspective. We do this with my team. I do this with my team now, and I've done this before, right? I would find maybe 1 to 2 operational projects inside the business, right? So maybe one of them that you work on is with the sales side of the organization. Since we serve a lot of growing businesses, our primary partners inside the business are going to be sales, it's going to be marketing, and it's going to be people operations. Those are literally, like, if you get finance, sales, marketing, people operations, and the CEO of a scaling business all marching in the right directions, let's scale, baby. It's scale time. But we would find these opportunities inside of those functional areas to partner and create a minimum viable project together. So say, for instance, in sales, right? Let's start with the salespeople. Maybe you go into your sales organization and you look back and say, all right, well, we didn't perform in our previous quarter as we needed to. So maybe I'm going to create a minimum viable project this quarter or this 6 months or this year that I'm going to work with sales around pipeline management, or maybe work with sales around how we're making sure we're leading. We got the right stages in our sales process, or making sure that our sales team is enabled, right? Or making sure we're balancing putting our sales people in the right roles, right? Maybe they shouldn't be doing development work and trying to sell at the same time. Maybe we bring on a BDR, business development rep, or a sales development rep perspective, right? So these MVPs are operational projects, right? These aren't, and you could also do them in finance as well, too. You could say, hey, Chris, I want to create a MVP specifically with the finance organization. But I think the biggest value in building this culture of experimentation is getting outside the finance organization. Get outside that comfort zone. Go partner inside the business and find a minimum viable project that you can partner with sales, marketing, operations, legal, HR, client success, any functional area to drive an initiative to bring value, right? So that is one critical place that I think when you going through chaos and uncertainty, it's not just finance going through that, right? Like the business is going through that. So when you can partner and build some of these MVPs, I gave you an example around sales. Here's another great one around HR that at Fresh FP&A we work around is one of the most important things around uncertainty and challenge from the people perspective is looking at that compensation side, right? So diving into some of our clients that we worked with, they really did that when it came to salary bands and ranges and compensation and bonus structures and making sure they're actually producing a total compensation package for their employees, right? It's not just like this one-off thing to say, oh man, this is a great negotiator, so they get more salary. This person asks for a bonus. I don't even know if we have a formal bonus plan, but the salesperson signed up for it. Like, here's the thing. When you're moving fast in an organization and you're trying to get that talent, I completely understand. I do that. In leading Fresh FP&A, I'm making sure that we're keeping a consistent model that we're making sure it's scalable, right? So partnering with HR, that could be a minimum viable project that you can work on with HR and say, hey, I know we've got a lot of variability around, maybe it's account executives and sales, right? We've got people at a lot of different salary ranges, like a lot of different ranges. Some of them have variables, some of them don't. Some of them are all salary. They're just all over the place. And think about that from a predictability perspective. When you've got all these different variables, right, makes it very hard to predict. Makes it very hard to predict expenses. Makes it very hard to predict in a growing business. The most important thing, cash, right? So that could be another minimum viable project. But overall, this second piece that I'm talking about is specifically around experimenting, like finding ways to test. The other thing that I think is a great framework as you're going through this experimentation is what I call the feedback loop. It's a very simple process that we implement at Fresh FP&A that really provides a lot to our internal team, but also a lot of value to our clients. And that is, you start with an idea, right? You start with an idea. Maybe that idea is, hey, I want to partner with HR to get better in maybe trimming down our recruiting process, right? Maybe you've identified a problem around, man, it is taking us like 90 days or 100 days to hire talented people. Like, we can't scale that as we continue to grow. So maybe the first you identify that problem and now you have some ideas around it and say, okay, here's some ideas that I want to go implement, right? Then you implement those ideas in partnership with HR, or maybe it's a different function, right? You implement that. The next stage is now you get feedback from that process. How is the process going? Maybe you evaluate that depending upon the cadence of your business. Maybe you're evaluating that monthly and say, all right, what's the feedback that we're getting? We've identified this problem. We've got some ideas. We're implementing and partnering together with HR. What's the feedback that we're getting, right? Then you take that feedback and you loop it right back in the process, right? It's like, hey, we got this feedback. One of the things that we get a lot of feedback on is like our process. Like, people upload their LinkedIn and then they got to type in all their information again. And then it just like end out of the process, right? We're seeing a lot of slippage in our funnel at that first stage because we don't create an easy applicant experience, which if we don't create an easy applicant experience, maybe that's a key driver of why we're seeing these roles take so long to fill. That's that feedback loop. It's a continuous process. It's a continuous process that you're constantly getting feedback. You have a new idea, you implement it, you get feedback, you constantly go through this what I call feedback loop. So much great information comes from that. And it not only comes from finance, but it's also that partnership element. That's why these MVPs are so much more valuable when you step outside the finance organization to go do them. So that's that one about that. Build a culture of experimentation. Find some great MVPs. I gave you a lot of great examples that you can go into your organization or you can go in with your clients and start looking at. Part of Fresh FP&A, we're not just working directly with the CEOs, business owners, and founders, which are our primary stakeholders. We're absolutely working with the business. Like, we're serving as that strategic CFO. And as CFOs inside of the organization, as fractional CFOs inside the organizations that we're helping support, partnership is the most important thing for us. So we're branching outside. We're partnering with sales, marketing, operations, various aspects of the business to really provide that value. So that's that second place, right? First one we talked about, quantitative. Second one we talked about, definitely qualitative, but a hint of quantitative with partnership included. And the next one is the third piece that I want to talk about as we tie out this continued uncertainty and challenge and how you can continue to provide value is the one of the most important ones. And this is all about embracing ambiguity. So let me break down a stereotype that a lot of, and you may be looking, drop in the comments if you're looking at this live right now. You probably feel this way, right? If you're a salesperson, marketing person looking at this, you're like, yep, this is a common stereotype of finance. We love, as finance professionals, we love to be perfect, right? We love to be right. Like we want to make sure we're right? And if there's any ambiguity, if there's any deviation from that, we get a little uncomfortable, right? Like when you're like, man, I'm this is perfect. This is ticked and tied to the tree. I've traced this out, and it's not that number, or it's not that outcome, or it's not that result that you've expected. Ambiguity comes in. This is where I think it's a superpower for us. Like when we embrace ambiguity and we embrace change and we say, okay, it went a little bit different, either positively or negatively than what I assumed. Why? That's one of the most important pieces. When you want to embrace ambiguity in your business, there's going to be things that happen. There's going to be clients that leave. There's going to be uh, talent that you come in and you're just like, man, I thought this talented person was here to stay, or you thought you were going to get this, six-figure contract and it moved out to another quarter. There's always going to be ambiguity and things that change, right? And finance teams, CFOs, FP&A professionals, fractional CFOs that are able to be flexible and have that agility and embrace that ambiguity, and you embrace the ambiguity from a learning perspective, right? So one of the things that we always have, and things change in our with our clients all the time. We're constantly working with high growth businesses, so that's one thing I love, and this is one thing my team always shares about working with growing businesses is like it's always something new that you're chasing, right? There's always a new opportunity, there's a new challenge, there's a new frustration. There's constantly evolution in the business. So you got to be comfortable that ice that you're sitting on sometimes may be a little shaky. It may be a little thin in certain areas, right? But coming from that perspective of learning about it, it's like, okay, we set this assumption out. It didn't necessarily, the result didn't pan out as we expected, but why? What did we learn from it? Like, what did the business learn? Where can we retool and make it better? Or where can we gain more insights? What was the key learning that we took away from this process? So that's one of the first ones is you got to be comfortable with ambiguity, right? You got to be comfortable that not everything is going to be perfect. Not everything is going to be exactly what you think it's going to be. And to me, I think when you embrace ambiguity, you embrace an opportunity to provide significant value, right? Looking back over building high growth businesses, right? For me, it was always like when things were going, I said, okay, this is my moment. Let me find my clarity in chaos, right? That's another important point when it's ambiguity. Like, find that clarity, find that place where you can say, okay, I know this is the situation that we're dealing with. Maybe you just lost a big customer. Maybe you just lost a customer that was like 15% of your revenue, right? Think about finance team. You lost that customer. You lost that customer that's 15% of your revenue. Okay, we lost it. How do we need what is the strategies we need to set out? Why did we lose it? Is there any way we can get the customer back? Like, go into finding that clarity when chaos is happening. Another great example is look at the pandemic that happened. And it's crazy that I think this is like what year dropping. This is year 4 now since the pandemic, right? I think, yeah. So the pandemic happened 4 years ago, which is that just doing that in my head is crazy. That's crazy that the pandemic was 4 years ago. But think about finance teams during that. I was at a high growth SaaS company, international marketing platform company at the time, right? When the pandemic happened, and we exclusively sold one of our 2 primary verticals It was retail and e-commerce, right? And specifically with retail, a lot of our clients had bricks and mortars. They had physical stores, right? That was a big presence that they had. Imagine waking up one day and everything is closed. That uncertainty that we had, I mean, that was no doubt about it. As a finance leader in a very chaotic time, that was probably one of the most challenging moments to embrace ambiguity. I remember waking up every day and it was like, okay, like, what are we doing? Right? We had X amount of customers, and I remember sitting on calls with the sales organization, sitting on calls with client success, like sitting on calls with the executive leadership team. Like, what are we doing to make sure we preserve this? Every day we woke up intentional about that, right? But I share that as an example because that's where embracing ambiguity. We were able to get through that. Some companies, some finance leaders looked at that as an opportunity to say, this is where I can level up. This is where I can get outside of the stereotype of constantly chasing being perfect, right? And I can embrace I can embrace change. And when I embrace change, I embrace it from a learning mindset, and I also embrace it from a mindset of how can I learn, how can I support, right? And how can I bring clarity, right? How can I bring clarity for operations? CFO, right? Yeah, that was nice how that tied in, right? Yeah, you like, Chris, that's a one-liner, right? That's like that's like a bar. I just dropped a bar right there, right? Like, but no, that's one of the most important things is bringing that clarity for operations. I honestly think the role of what I call fresh CFOs of the future, we got to bring clarity for operations. That is top level skill set. When we can bring clarity for operations, we're superpowers, right? But a lot of that starts is we got to be comfortable that some of that clarity is going to be amongst chaos, right? You've got to hear that right noise when there's chaos going on, right? So to me, that is that third element of it. And that's more of a skill set perspective, right? So, you know, going back through and looking at this, right? The first one we talked about, very quantitative heavy, looking at the balance between accuracy and precision, right? Gave you some great examples of creating those great MVPs inside your organization. The second one that we talked about was building this culture of experimentation. I think that's qualitative and quantitative that you can bring both together in partnership with your operations groups. And definitely the last one is definitely going to be more of a level up skill set, right? Embracing ambiguity inside of your finance teams, inside of your businesses. Fresh FP&A, this is one important for us. I always tell my team, like, things are going to change, things are going to evolve. I want people around me that are not, when things change, not feeling like they lost, not feeling like they won, but they're feeling like they're learning, and they're bringing clarity to the clients that they help support. So those are definitely, I think, my top three ways to forge ahead and forget crystal balls and start embracing chaos. And that is my anti-risk playbook for finance. Those are three things you can take away. And these things are, these are things that, whether, irregardless of what role you're in, right? You could be looking at this and say, Chris, I'm entry level finance. These are all practical tips and strategies that you can go implement like right now. So hope that was helpful for everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for enjoying this Fresh CFO Fridays. Again, if this is your first time coming to look at Fresh CFO Fridays, basically Fresh CFO Fridays, we talk about different topics that cater to finance, FP&A, CFO, and fractional CFO professionals to empower and enable you to be a finance superstar. So that's the topic. If you enjoyed this video and you've got this far, please make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe or connect with us. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell on our page. That way you don't miss any future updates. Man, we got a lot of great things coming up in Fresh FP&A. I'm actually home now, right? Most of the people like last year, they're like, Chris, you're traveling all over. It actually feels really good to actually be home. I had one client thing I had to do in January. I got some other client things at the end of the month this month, but for the most part, we're going to keep a consistent schedule. Even when we're traveling, we got some really, really great things on the traveling side. So when I'm traveling to conferences or traveling to clients, You're going to start seeing a lot more vlog, a lot more inside behind the scenes, POV views of some of these great events I go to, some of these great conferences. We got some great things around that. Also, as well, too, I'll leave a link here to my most recent Beyond the Numbers podcast. Make sure to check that out. That's a whole podcast that I got going on where getting outside the finance organization, we're talking with leaders, executives, people in all different areas of business, whether that's sales, that's marketing, that's coaching, industries. That is the time to really get outside and get beyond the numbers and increase your skill set. So make sure to check that out. I'll make sure to drop a link in the description to that last Beyond the Numbers. It was talking about imposter syndrome. It was fire. I can tell you there's a lot of insights around that one. So got some great things coming up. Thank you so much. And as I always end, keep pushing, never settle, and the best is yet to come. Let's get it, everybody. Hey, thanks for coming in. Have a great weekend. Catch you on the next one.